position. Cam is my partner. I'm not his artist. I was the CEO of Diplomats. I made Diplomats with him. I was with him for every bit of his journey.
For a bunch of I do in this industry. What say Love Hop? They supposed to say, man, the creator and founder, Jim Jones. Hey, I made that name Love of Hip Hop. That's my name. They didn't make that name.
I didn't know that.
Gold records, platinum records, gold albums, platinum albums. No, me, Jim Jones. No Diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. So let's not get into that where we get into numbers and I gotta show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people was done. You heard them. You wanna go to the Billboard entries, pull up Nas Billboard entries, then pull up my Billboard.
This is Jim Jones, the man who wears more titles than a rapper wears chains. Depending on the day and the interview, he's the architect of love and hip hop, the certified street legend, the self-proclaimed business mastermind, and the rapper with one of the hardest catalogs in the game. He loves to remind everyone that he's the boss, the brain, and the muscle all rolled into one, the man who supposedly showed everybody else how to play this industry like chess, not checkers. But here's where things start to crack. People who were right there in the trenches with him say the story he's selling ain't adding up. Those from his own inner circle are speaking out, and they're not holding back. They claim Jim's been recycling the same made-up tales for nearly 20 years, and the truth behind the legend might not be as clean as he makes it sound. They're saying his so-called blueprint for success might actually be built on smoke and mirrors, the same streets he claims to have mastered. Some say he was never really running them like that. It's got fans questioning, is Jim Jones really the boss he says he is, or has the whole image been one long performance?
Viral at all, ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life. They got 100 on me now. I got like 40, 50 on me.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's right now. Get this right now. Right now. Anyone right now. And it ain't a money thing, but this is here. You heard? If you want to get busy, is the money on the line. Any one of your.
Let's really unpack this story, because Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin have been selling this same dream for years. They've been telling everyone that love and hip-hop was Jim's masterpiece, his brainchild, his big idea that flipped reality TV upside down. According to their version, the whole show was supposed to be a front row seat into their relationship. The ups, the downs, the drama, all centered around them. Jim even went on record saying he came up with the entire concept from scratch, like the whole thing came straight out of his own head. Sounds impressive, right? But here's where the truth starts punching through the myth. Once you look past Jim's side of the story and dig into the real industry receipts, things start sounding real different. The actual name on all the legal paperwork, the trade articles, the executive credits, it's not Jim Jones, it's Mona Scott Young. She's the true creator and executive producer of Love and Hip Hop. Her fingerprints are all over that franchise. Every spinoff, every deal, every contract. Meanwhile, Jim and Chrissy, they were just cast members caught up in the mix. Yeah, maybe Jim threw out a few ideas during filming, maybe even added some flavor to the concept, but that's a far cry from creating a global TV empire. The truth is, Mona built that machine from the ground up while Jim was busy playing star of the show. Now fans are starting to question, did Jim really mastermind love and hip hop, or has he been rewriting history to make himself look like the genius behind the curtain? But fans haven't let him slide on that claim, not even a little. They've been quick to point out there's a huge difference between tossing out a casual idea and actually building one of the biggest reality TV franchises of the 2000s. Saying you created love and hip-hop when your name doesn't appear anywhere in the credits, that's not just confidence, that's straight up delusional energy. And the wild part, it doesn't stop there. Jim's been waving that Harlem flag like it's stitched to his DNA, always shouting Harlem to the bone. But that whole Harlem story starts cracking fast once Cameron steps into the conversation. Their bond has been rocky for years. 1 minute they're tight, the next they're throwing shade like it's sport. Reconciliations, fallouts, surprise reunions, and then another public explosion. It's been non-stop drama. Fans have watched the two go from brothers in arms to rivals at war again and again. And one of the biggest sparks that reignited their feud, Jim started claiming he was the real architect of Dipset, the man who made the movement what it was, but Cameron wasn't having none of that. He fired back hard, peeling back layers of their history and calling out what he said were straight fabrications. That's when things got real messy. Cam started spilling details that poked serious holes in Jim's Harlem born and raised storyline. According to Cam, Jim wasn't really from Harlem like that. He said the man's been bending the truth about his roots for years. Fans couldn't believe it. The same guy who built his whole image on Harlem loyalty might not even be fully from the block he reps so proudly. That shook people up. Now everyone's looking at Jim sideways, wondering how much of his legend is real and how much of it is just a perfectly packaged performance. Cameron didn't hold back when he set the record straight. He said Jim wasn't even from Harlem like that. According to Cam, Jim was really from the Bronx, and the only connection he had to Harlem was through his grandmother who happened to live there.
You are a guardian angel and designer, nigga. What the fuck is you talking about, man, nigga? You are from the Bronx, bro. You are not from Harlem. Why do you keep thinking that you are from Harlem, bro? You are not from Harlem. I did not grow up with you, my nigga. I did not grow up with you. Contrary to what you believe, I did not grow up with you. You are from the Bronx. Did your grandmother live? Did your grandmother live in Harlem? Yes. Did you come see her? Yes. Did I see you time to time? Yes. I did not grow up with you.
Sure, he'd pop up from time to time, but that's a far cry from being a Harlem native. Cam made it crystal clear. They did not grow up together, no matter how many times Jim spins that story. All those came up together in the Harlem Streets tales. Cam said that's all cap. He even broke down the real story of how Jim got close to the crew in the first place, and it paints a very different picture. Back in the day, Cam, Mace, Big L, Bloodshed, and Herb McGruff were already making serious noise on the streets. Everybody knew they were this close to landing a record deal. Their freestyles had New York buzzing, and the whole scene was watching their every move. Jim heard that heat and wanted in badly.
We were popping. It wasn't no internet. Mace, myself, Big L, even though Mace and Big L on the same page, Bloodshed, my man Herb McGruff, we were super duper popping in the street prior to the internet. Everybody knew we was about to get a record deal. Everybody knew this, nigga. It wasn't no secret. Basically, you heard our freestyles, and you came up to me one day when I was chilling in front of the house, you said, and this word to my dead mother, yo, man, I heard the freestyles, y'all killing shit. Yo, you know my grandmother died. If y'all wanna come by and just hang out, y'all could, y'all more than welcome. We like, all right, Jomo, thanks. It didn't really make sense at the time because we like, yo, my nigga, where's Jomo inviting us to his house for?
After his grandmother passed, Jim started opening up his crib as a hangout spot for the crew. He told them, yo, pull up anytime. This place is yours. At first, Cam and the team were a little confused. They didn't exactly need a place to chill. But Jim kept extending that invite, showing love, making sure the door was always open. Eventually, they started stopping by just to relax and vibe.
But it didn't make sense to be going to Jomo's house. More freestyles come out. Yo, I heard the new shit you did. I heard the new shit you did. Yo, you wanna come through? Come through. Why? Why are we going to Jomo's house?
Cam even admitted they'd sometimes use Jim's spot to kick back after long studio nights. Maybe bring a few girls around or just cool off since the space was always free and drama-free. It wasn't about deep brotherhood back then, it was convenience. But over time, that small gesture became Jim's entry point into the inner circle. And according to Cam, that's where the myth-making started. Jim turned hospitality into history. And now fans are wondering where the truth ends and the legend begins.
I never needed nowhere to stay. You act like niggas on your couch. You was a fan, nigga. You begged us. You are a fan, nigga. A fan. We didn't grow up with you.
Cameron made sure there was no confusion about it. He said flat out that he never needed Jim's spot like that. To him, Jim wasn't part of the real Harlem core. He was just hanging on the edges, trying to be down. Cam painted it vividly. Jim wasn't running with the crew. He was orbiting around them, hoping someone would finally let him in.
You not from none of that. So you can sit around and act like you've been around all this Harlem shit and everything. You ever see somebody from Harlem try to act like they from Harlem so bad that you gotta keep saying, I'm from Harlem? Niggas from Harlem know who's from Harlem. You don't have to keep saying you from Harlem.
That's a brutal image. The so-called Harlem boss being described like a fan on standby, just waiting to get noticed. And if that wasn't wild enough, Cam dropped another bomb. He said it was Mace, not Cam, not Big L, not anyone from the original crew, who actually taught Jim how to rap. According to Cam, Jim didn't come up spitting bars or battling in ciphers with him. He joined the movement after it had already started buzzing across New York. He wasn't part of Harlem's real rap foundation. He was just someone who slid in once the door cracked open. That revelation alone had people clutching their phones like, wait, what?
Mace like, yo, I think I'll teach him how to rap. Mace actually taught you how to rap. Literally. Literally. He taught you how to rap. You say it. Matter of fact, bring up the clip.
And Mace helped me actually learn how to rap.
Mace showed me how to rap.
Mace actually showed me, he was the first person to show me how to rap.
Mace actually sat me down and showed me the magic to rap.
We taught you how to rap, nigga. How you ran the whole organization. How you made Diplomat. Nigga, you ain't make none of this stuff. You was a fan. I put you down.
But it didn't stop there. Cam claimed Jim once tried to flex his money on him, trying to prove he'd leveled up beyond the crew. But the move completely backfired. Instead of looking like a boss, it left Jim embarrassed and exposed, with Cam allegedly brushing it off like, bro, that's not the flex you think it is. Another ego bruise for the man who calls himself Capo, and just when you think Jim might chill out after all that, he drops another wild statement, claiming he's actually a better rapper than Nas. Yeah, you heard that right. Jim Jones went on record saying he could rap circles around anybody from his era, even daring hip-hop legends to meet him in the booth. The internet lit up instantly. Fans couldn't tell if it was confidence or comedy, because saying you're out-rapping Nas, that's not just bold. That's dangerous talk in the rap world.
I admired Nas, but remember Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade. So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan, period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you gotta realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation.
That was a bold move, maybe too bold. Sure, hip-hop's built on competition, and calling people out has always been part of the culture, but this one hit way different. This wasn't just some friendly rap challenge. This was Jim Jones stepping into a ring he might not be ready for. Because when you start talking about out-rapping legends, you better have bars that shake the ground. The issue here isn't just ego, it's about respect and reality. We're not talking about any random rapper off the block. This is Nas. The same Nas who's been dropping poetic bombs since the 90s. The man whose pen helped define an entire generation of lyricism. The same Nas who walked away with a Grammy in 2021 and stood tall at the 2024 Grandmaster Awards, being honored for his legendary impact on hip-hop culture. Nas isn't just a rapper, he's a living monument to what real rap sounds like. Every verse he spits still gets studied, broken down, and quoted like scripture. So for Jim to say he could out-rap him, that's not just confidence, that's borderline delusion. Fans were left stunned, shaking their heads like, did he really just say that? That's not just rap royalty, that's legacy. So when Jim tried to throw shade in that direction, the backlash hit fast. Fans, bloggers, and even other rappers came for him instantly. Within hours, social media was roasting him like a Sunday cookout. The pressure got so heavy that Jim tried to walk it back, saying people misunderstood what he meant. He claimed he wasn't talking strictly about lyrical skill, but about being a marketing genius. Now suddenly the story switched up. 1 minute it's about bars, the next it's about branding. That's when fans started asking the real question. Is Jim actually calling out legends for a rap battle? Or is he just talking wild to keep his name trending? Because every time his career goes quiet, here comes another headline with Jim's name stamped all over it. But instead of easing off, Jim doubled down. He tried to flex again, saying he had more Billboard entries than Nas. But that flex didn't survive a single Google search, because the numbers came out and they told the whole truth. Jim's got a total of 9 entries on the Billboard 200, with only 3 albums making it to the top 10, and not one of them ever hit #1. Meanwhile, Nas is sitting like a king on 27 Billboard 200 entries, with 16 top 10 albums and 6 that hit #1. The difference isn't just big, it's massive. And when the streets got wind of those facts, Harlem wasn't staying quiet either. People started talking, shaking their heads, saying Jim was reaching too far this time. Some even pulled up interviews, clips, and old footage to show that Nas had been dominating charts and culture for decades. Jim might have been trying to spark buzz, but instead, he sparked a full-on debate about who's really holding the crown in hip-hop. And in that battle, the scoreboard says it all. When people hit the streets, they ask just one simple question. Who's the better rapper, Nas or Jim Jones? The results? Straight up embarrassing. Not one person hesitated. Every single answer was Nas. Some didn't just choose him, they laughed at the thought of Jim even being in the same sentence. It wasn't a debate, it was a demolition. The whole scene had people cracking up like, come on, that's not even close. Then battle rapper Math Hoffa decided to run the same test on his own platform. And guess what happened next? Same exact story. Every response, every comment, every vote, all went to Nas again. It was another rough blow to Jim's already shaky credibility, and the internet had a field day with it. One clip even went viral where a Harlem resident laughed and said, "Jim better switch that up, big dog. I ain't gonna lie to you." The streets made their verdict loud and clear. There was no competition here. But before the dust could even settle, another chapter of Jim's saga started to unfold, this time involving none other than Jay-Z. For years, Jim had tried to act like things between him and Hov were cool, even going out of his way to smile through interviews, saying there was no bad blood and that everything with Roc Nation was all love. Around 2016, he was publicly shaking hands, posing for photos, talking about unity and mutual respect. But as time went on, the interviews started telling a very different story. Jim eventually admitted that he actually felt hurt, that deep down, he was upset about being left out of Roc Nation's big money moves and major opportunities. The same guy who once acted like Jay-Z was his homie suddenly confessed that he felt snubbed, overlooked, and shut out of the inner circle. That's a major switch up, and the fans noticed it instantly. Even Jay-Z himself seemed to throw a little shade back. The energy between them shifted so hard that hip-hop blogs started clowning Jim for flip-flopping every time a new interview dropped. One minute it was all love and respect, and the next he was venting about being iced out of business deals. To make it worse, every time Jim retold the story, the details kept changing. It got to the point where people were wondering if even he remembered what really went down. But that wasn't the only hole in his image, because then came the gang persona. For years, Jim's been pushing this narrative that he's a high-ranking blood, a general who gives orders, moves with power, and sits at the top of the set. He's built that reputation into his whole brand. Interviews, lyrics, image, everything. But when the 6ix9ine federal case hit and those infamous 9-tray wiretaps leaked, the entire story blew up in his face. Suddenly, fans were hearing things they weren't supposed to hear. And Jim's name was right there in the mix. His voice popped up clear as day on those recordings, talking real gang business. The internet exploded with theories, clips, and breakdowns of every second of that audio. People started asking the questions Jim couldn't easily dodge. Was he really the boss he claimed to be, or was he deeper in something that could have ended his whole career? The truth was starting to sound louder than the image, and the streets were paying attention. Here's where things get real wild. When those indictments started dropping and everyone connected to the case was getting hauled off by the feds, one name was suspiciously missing. Jim Jones. No charges, no arrest, nothing. His name didn't show up on a single piece of paperwork, and that silence had the entire hip-hop community scratching their heads. Legal experts, journalists, and even defense attorneys started asking the same question. How? If Jim was really the general he claimed to be, the one giving orders and moving weight in the streets, how did everyone else go down while he walked away untouched? It didn't make sense. The math wasn't mathing. The feds had enough evidence to lock up 9-tray's top leaders for decades. Yet somehow, Jim came out clean? People couldn't ignore it? Soon the whispers started. Rumors about backdoor deals, hidden cooperation, or silent immunity began floating all over social media. Folks were saying, if he was really knee-deep in it like that, how's he still free? Whatever the truth was, it definitely didn't fit the tough guy image he'd been selling for years. And the thing is, Jim didn't just claim to have rank in New York. He tried to flex that gang status nationwide. He went around saying he was solid in every city, every hood, even out west in LA, claiming he had full acceptance in the Cali sets. But that's when Wack 100, a man who never bites his tongue, stepped in and shut that whole story down fast. He called cap on Jim's "I'm good everywhere" claim and made it crystal clear that not everyone was buying what Jim was selling. Suddenly, that unshakable street rep started looking more like smoke and mirrors. And the streets were starting to talk louder than ever. According to Wack 100, Jim didn't earn that street respect. He bought it. Wack claimed Jim allegedly tried to hand him straight up cash just to get a pass in Compton so he could move around out there without any problems. That's a serious accusation, because if true, it flips Jim's whole "I'm certified everywhere" image upside down.
All of a sudden, Jim Jones was paying for his colors. You was paying for your rag.
Right after that, Jim hit Instagram trying to prove a point, posting clips of himself chilling in Compton parks, walking around with locals, acting like he was truly stamped out there. But for people who actually knew the real story, those videos didn't scream authenticity. They looked staged. More like performances for social media than real street validation. The comments were wild, too. Folks were calling it movie magic, saying Jim was trying to film himself into respect he didn't have. Then Faizon Love stepped in and threw gasoline on the fire. He clowned Jim so hard, saying the closest Jim had ever been to a real blood set was watching the movie Colors. That line broke the internet. People were reposting it, laughing for days. It was brutal, but it hit because it echoed what a lot of people were already thinking, that Jim's whole gang boss persona might be more marketing than reality.
It's not like the shit Jim Jones' bitch ass is portraying. You know what I'm saying? He's the fuckers. Is he stupid? He ain't never been on no blood set.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? The closest thing he been to a blood set is Colors.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He ain't been on Pyro Street in Compton.
And just when it seemed like he might lay low for a bit, Jim reinvented himself yet again, this time as a wannabe athlete. He started flooding social media with gym clips, especially those shadowboxing videos where he's throwing punches like he's training for a heavyweight title fight. The problem, fans couldn't tell if he was serious or just trying to distract from all the other controversies. Because let's be honest, Jim's athlete era might just be his funniest claim yet. The message Jim was trying to send was crystal clear. He wanted the world to see him as some kind of fighter, a man who could throw hands just as hard as he spits bars. But the internet? Oh, they had other plans. Instead of being impressed, Twitter lit him up like a Christmas tree. People zoomed in on his form, his weak footwork, and those soft-looking punches. It was brutal. Within hours, those clips turned into meme gold. Reaction videos started flooding every timeline. People were breaking down his technique like it was a comedy show, calling out his noodle arms and skinny legs while throwing in side-by-side edits comparing him to cartoon characters. Even other rappers couldn't resist jumping in to mock his boxing skills, with some saying he looked more like he was dancing with the air than fighting it. What Jim meant as a flex ended up becoming one of the funniest internet moments of the year, and yet another viral joke with his name attached to it.
Listen, you color coordinated, right? This is what I'm saying. I'm like, you wearing, I know you're not going to do this. You're not going to do this.
This is not pretty. I'm not from Brooklyn, first of all.
It don't matter. You wearing a nice coat, and you wearing a, listen, let me just say.
It's cold outside. What do you want me to wear?
No, but you put this together. You put the suit with the sneakers together.
Wait a minute.
You put that together.
I bought this. I didn't buy this sneakers. I didn't buy this together. These sneakers are. These sneakers. And these is not even brand new. I wore these sneakers already.
We doubt it.
I wore it.
We doubt it. We don't believe you. We don't believe you. We don't believe
this
you.
This is a Nike
Why would
Tech.
you come?
When you go to work out,
you come in to work out or what?
A sweatsuit.
All you come in to work out?
I have a
chocolate and strawberry.
Strawberries going on. With the strawberry nights. Come on, man. We're trying to get money.
They got strawberry nights on. This nigga crazy.
But here's the bigger picture. Behind all the fake flexes, Jim videos, and over-the-top claims, Jim's career has been packed with feuds, and somehow they always seem to backfire on him. Unlike other rappers who walk away from beefs looking stronger, Jim's battles often leave him looking clownish or exposed. His legendary moments in beef culture, more like embarrassing chapters he probably wishes could get deleted from the timeline. Take his situation with Rao Diggs, for example. That wasn't some online back and forth with a keyboard warrior. Rao was the real deal. A street figure with a name that carried weight. The kind you hear about in street documentaries, not in gossip blogs. And when Jim crossed paths with someone like that, the energy shifted fast. Because this wasn't entertainment anymore, this was real street tension. We're not talking about some internet tough guy here. Raw Diggs was the real deal. His name carried weight for all the wrong reasons. This man's street record was no joke. Rumors tied him to everything from major drug operations to armed robberies, and even a long list of bodies connected to his name. The kind of reputation that made people lower their voices when they mentioned him. When the feds finally caught up to Raw Diggs, they didn't just slap him with a few years, they threw the whole book at him. 3 life sentences plus an extra 105 years stacked on top just to make sure he'd never see daylight again. That's not street talk. That's federal time, and it means business. So when Jim Jones decided to cross paths with someone like Raw Diggs, it wasn't just a bad idea. It was reckless. You don't poke at somebody with that kind of history unless you're ready for the storm that comes after. And for Jim, who's already been juggling scandals, beefs, and broken reputations, this was the last kind of heat he needed. At that point in time, Raw Diggs was trying to switch lanes, moving away from the streets and diving into music. He was dropping tracks, teaming up with artists like Shooter 93, and slowly building a real buzz in the underground hip-hop scene. Word was starting to spread that Raw wasn't just another street figure, he actually had talent behind the mic too. One day, fate threw them both in the same place. Raw Diggs ended up in the same studio where Jim Jones was recording, and that's where everything went sideways. Now, Jim has one big rule when it comes to studio sessions. No street talk in the booth. He keeps his music world and the street world completely separate, and he expects everyone else to follow suit. But that day, things took a sharp left turn. Raw started talking heavy, real heavy, bringing up old blood politics, street beefs, and gang history like it was casual conversation. Most people in the room thought it was just typical tough talk. Nothing serious, just 2 street dudes vibing and trading stories, but Jim wasn't having it. Witnesses say Jim suddenly snapped. He jumped up, eyes locked on Raw, and barked, "Man, get the fuckers out of here with that blood talk." The whole room froze. You could feel the tension shift instantly, like all the air got sucked out of the studio. Raw was caught completely off guard, staring back in disbelief, not expecting Jim to explode like that. What started as a regular session had just turned into a standoff, and everyone watching knew something serious was about to go down. Raw Diggs wasn't expecting Jim to come at him like that. This wasn't some random dude off the street. This was Raw Diggs, a man knee-deep in the trenches, someone whose name carried real weight. People feared this man. So when Jim barked at him in front of everyone, Raw couldn't believe it. He looked at Jim like, "Yo, you serious right now?" Then he checked him right there on the spot, asking if Jim really meant what he said. And Jim doubled down. Witnesses say Jim repeated himself loud and clear, making sure everyone in the room heard it. He basically dismissed Raw in front of the whole studio. No hesitation, no fear, and that's when things exploded. The energy snapped from calm to chaotic in seconds. People started moving, voices got louder, and you could feel the tension boiling over. It wasn't just about disrespect anymore. It was about pride, ego, and reputation colliding head-on. And just when fans thought Jim had reached his peak drama, another blow came from a totally different direction, Nas himself. During a separate interview, Nas was asked about Jim's comments, and his response hit like a thunderclap. He said, "Certain people shouldn't even be able to say my name until they've actually done something in music. I've done too much in this game to even have to answer that question." Then he hit the line that broke the internet. Who is Jim Jones? He's not on anyone's top 10 list, maybe not even in his own family's. He's got no hardware on his wall, no classic album. So from both a creative and economic standpoint, he doesn't even register. So why would I even waste time responding? That quote went viral instantly. Fans flooded social media saying Nas just buried Jim without even raising his voice. It was cold, calculated, and delivered with that calm confidence only a true legend could pull off. Word started flying fast, and the tension in that studio hit the ceiling. People who were there said you could feel the shift in the air, like the whole room suddenly dropped 20 degrees. It got ice cold. Everyone knew right then this could jump from words to violence in a split second. Raw Diggs was furious, red hot, pacing, ready to move, and the whole place froze, watching every twitch, every breath. But before things could explode, a few cooler heads stepped in and tried to defuse it. Some of the guys in the studio jumped between them, talking fast, trying to get both sides to chill before things turned deadly. The energy was so heavy you could hear a pin drop between the shouts. Eventually, they managed to calm it down just enough to stop a full-blown fight, but that didn't mean it was over, because Raw Diggs, he wasn't the type to let a moment like that slide. His pride was hit, and his anger started doing the talking. As he stormed out, witnesses said he smashed one of the studio's glass doors with his bare hands before disappearing into the night. Furious, everyone in that room knew this wasn't the end of it. Something was coming. And they were right. because later that same night, Jim Jones had a show booked at SO's Rendezvous, one of the city's go-to club spots. At first, the vibe seemed perfect. The lights were low, the drinks were flowing, the crowd was hyped, and Jim was up on stage doing his thing like nothing had happened earlier. But behind all that energy, there was a storm brewing, the kind of tension that makes you look over your shoulder, because everyone in that room could sense it. Something bad was about to go down. Then out of nowhere, Raw Diggs pulled up. And he didn't come alone this time. He rolled in deep, rolling with a few of his guys, moving like a storm straight through the front doors of SO's Rendezvous. The whole energy in the club flipped in an instant. 1 second it was all music and flashing lights. The next you could feel the tension choking the air. Every eye in that place turned toward the entrance. Raw wasn't there to party. He was there to make his presence felt. People close to the situation said the second Raw walked in, it was clear. This wasn't going to be a friendly pull-up. He wanted Jim to see him, to feel that pressure. The DJ even started lowering the volume for a moment, like everyone could sense something was about to pop off. And in the middle of all that tension, Raw started throwing verbal shots, making fun of Jim for the way he tried to buy credibility instead of earning it. One voice could be heard saying, "I don't know why people still think they're built like that. It's 2025, and you running back just to get a Compton stamp? You don't know how much of a clown that looks like." Another line caught in the chaos sounded like Raw mocking Jim directly. Man, I ain't from Compton. I don't care what park you go to or who you pay. That don't make you real." The room was on edge, and everyone knew. One wrong word, one wrong move, and that place was about to explode. The second Raw Diggs stepped inside, even the DJ couldn't resist. He grabbed the mic and shouted, "Raw Diggs in the building!" like a real street king had just entered the arena. The crowd erupted, not out of joy, but out of pure shock. In an instant, the whole vibe flipped from hype to heavy. That energy that had people dancing just seconds earlier, gone. The room froze. Witnesses said you could read everything off Jim's face. 1 second, he was calm, confident, performing with that usual swagger. And the next, he looked like he'd just seen a ghost. His whole energy drained right there under the lights. The crowd might have still been loud, but Jim wasn't hearing any of it anymore. His focus was locked straight on Raw. And before anyone could even blink, Jim made his move. He dipped fast. No goodbyes, no wrap-up, no encore, just straight up left the club before things could spiral out of control. People said he didn't even finish the track he was performing. He just handed the mic off and walked out. Luckily for Jim, nothing popped off inside the venue that night. But behind the scenes, the situation was way more dangerous than it looked. Word on the street was that one of Raw's guys was already waiting for the signal. One nod from Raw, and it would have gone from tension to tragedy in a matter of seconds. If Raw had given that green light, that night could have ended very differently for Jim Jones, and not in a way anyone would have been laughing about online. That moment didn't just shake Jim's pride. It reminded everyone that behind the music, behind the image, the streets still have a way of settling things the hard way. But here's the shocker. Raw Diggs didn't give the order. He stood there, watching Jim make his exit and let him walk away untouched. For a man like Raw, that was unheard of. This was someone with a reputation for never letting disrespect slide. A man whose name carried fear wherever it landed. If someone crossed him, the streets already knew how it usually ended, quick and violent. So when he let Jim leave that club without a single punch thrown, everybody was stunned. Even the people who knew Raw best were whispering, why'd he let that go? It was out of character. The kind of move that had the streets buzzing for weeks. Because if Raw Diggs was known for anything, it was settling things immediately. No talking, no warnings, no passes. But this time, he stayed calm. And that silence spoke louder than any threat ever could. It left everyone asking the same burning question. Why did he spare Jim Jones? What made Raw hold back when he had every reason and every opportunity not to? After that night, people who really knew the streets started whispering their own wild theories. Some said that after the studio incident, Jim finally realized who he was truly dealing with. Word is, somebody must have pulled him aside and broke down Raw Diggs' real-life resume. And once Jim understood that history, he knew better than to test those waters again. Because if he didn't know before, he definitely learned after that encounter. But just when people thought the drama might die down, another storm came. The Max B situation. Out of all the conflicts Jim Jones has had over the years, this one stands out as the ugliest. and easily the most personal. What makes it sting even more is that these two didn't start as enemies. They started as brothers. Max B wasn't just another rapper hanging around Jim's circle trying to catch a little fame. He was family. Jim's right-hand man in the studio, his ghostwriter, his creative partner, part of the original Bird Gang crew that helped define that gritty Harlem sound. They were locked in, side by side, building hits and chasing the same dream, feeding off each other's energy like a real team. For a while, everything was smooth. Money flowing, music popping, fans growing. But somewhere down the line, things got messy. The bonds started cracking. The loyalty started fading. And when it went bad, it went real bad. What was once a brotherhood turned into betrayal. And that fallout would go on to haunt both their careers for years to come. The real fallout began when Max B got hit with some serious charges, a full-blown murder case that would end up taking away his freedom for years. It was one of those moments where everything changed overnight. The industry went quiet, the money slowed up, and the people around him started disappearing one by one. From Max's point of view, that's exactly what Jim did. Disappeared. He felt like when the pressure hit and he needed his brother the most, Jim completely abandoned him. No support, no visits, no real loyalty, just silence. To Max, that cut deep. He wasn't just fighting for his freedom, he was watching someone he thought was family act like a stranger. And that's when the loyalty snapped. Whatever brotherhood they once had shattered right there. For Max, it wasn't just about business or fame anymore. It was personal. The man who helped him write songs, build hits, and dream of superstardom was now nowhere to be found. That betrayal burned so bad that even from behind bars, Max made sure the world knew exactly how he felt about Jim Jones, and he didn't hold back. What used to be a tight brotherhood turned into one of the ugliest and most public feuds in New York rap history. Max B and Jim Jones went from making hits together to throwing shots at each other. Not just in interviews, but straight through their music. And Max didn't hold anything back. He went straight for Jim's neck. He dropped a mixtape that made the whole city stop and talk. The cover showed tombstones, and one of them read, "Here lies Millie, Jim Jones." That image alone had fans and bloggers in a frenzy. But Max wasn't done. He doubled down with one of the most disrespectful diss tracks of that era, "She Touched It in Miami." In that record, Max claimed he had been with Jim's longtime partner, Chrissy Lampkin, and that line alone sent the internet into flames. The track spread like wildfire. DJs were spinning it nonstop, fans were dissecting every lyric, and people couldn't believe how personal it got. This wasn't just rap beef anymore, this was humiliation on wax. From there, things didn't just stay in the music. According to Max, one night he ran into Jim in the streets, and that's when everything went left. He said Jim tried to box his car in, like he was setting him up for a confrontation. But Max wasn't the type to freeze up. He claimed he rammed Jim's Bentley just to break free, and in the middle of the chaos, punched Jim right in the face. Witnesses said it all happened fast. Cars screeching, people yelling, security scrambling, turning what started as a lyrical war into real street smoke. Even while Max sat behind bars later on, he kept speaking on that moment, reminding everyone that his beef with Jim wasn't just about songs or fame. For him, it was personal, and no amount of time or distance could cool that fire. For years, Max B held on to that grudge, but he never let it completely destroy him. Time passed, and slowly, he started showing signs that he was open to letting the past go. In a few interviews from behind bars, Max even hinted that if the opportunity came up, he'd be down to squash the beef. You could tell he'd made peace with a lot of things, but not everything. Deep down, that pain was still there, but he wasn't trying to carry it forever. Meanwhile, Jim Jones took a totally different route. Instead of addressing it head on, he spent years brushing it off like it was nothing. Anytime the Max B situation came up, Jim would laugh it off, change the topic, or pretend he couldn't even remember Max's name. He'd act like Max was just a footnote in his story, not the man who helped him craft some of his best records. It was cold, and fans noticed. But then after years of denial and deflection, the truth finally slipped out. In a recent interview, Jim finally admitted it. He did Max dirty. That one confession sent shockwaves through hip-hop. Fans who'd been debating the story for years finally felt vindicated. The man who'd once built an empire on loyalty had just admitted he betrayed one of his closest allies. And just when that bombshell started cooling off, another familiar name stepped into the picture. 50 Cent, the ultimate instigator, the self-proclaimed king of rap beefs. If there's a feud in hip-hop, you can almost guarantee 50's name is somewhere in the mix. And his history with Jim Jones, oh, that one goes way back. all the way to 2007. That era was pure chaos. G-Unit running wild, Dipset making noise, and egos colliding left and right. So when 50 decided to aim his sights on Jim, everyone knew it wasn't going to be a quiet war. It was about to get messy, Gucci. But during that time, Dipset was already crumbling from the inside. Cameron and Jim Jones were beefing heavy, and the crew wasn't nearly as tight as they once were. That's when 50 Cent, the undisputed master of rap trolling, saw an opening, and he wasted no time jumping in. Right in the middle of all that Dipset drama, 50 invited Jim to perform at one of his shows. But make no mistake, it wasn't out of friendship or respect. Nah, this was chess, not checkers. 50 was stirring the pot on purpose, using the tension between Jim and Cam to keep the spotlight on himself while watching their empire crumble from the sidelines. Years later, 50 even admitted the truth. The whole thing was strategic. He did it to mess with Dipset's cracks, expose the division, and laugh at the fact that Jim had finally caught a hit record while everything else around him was falling apart. Classic 50 Cent trolling, calculated, cold, and hilarious to everyone but Jim. Of course, Jim couldn't stay quiet. He fired back in an interview with Justin LeBoy, trying to flip the story his way. He downplayed the whole situation, saying, "There's only space on there for baby girl, man," acting like the invite didn't mean much to him. But that calm tone, it didn't fool anybody, least of all 50. In true 50 Cent fashion, he wasn't letting that slide. He turned the heat all the way up, past petty, straight into personal. When 6ix9ine's federal trial started making headlines, 50 took things to another level. He dug up the court transcripts where Jim's name allegedly appeared as Individual 1. Then he posted it online, hinting that Jim might have been closer to the whole case than anyone realized. It was savage, even for 50. The internet went wild, and suddenly, Jim was once again fighting to defend his name, his image, and his street credibility. All while 50 sat back, laughing and watching the chaos unfold like it was just another episode of his favorite show. 50 didn't even have to say much. All it took was one post, one hint, and the internet did the rest. He simply implied that Jim might have been playing both sides, maybe even cooperating behind the scenes. That single move was enough to plant serious doubt about Jim's street credibility, and overnight, people were talking again. In hip-hop, that kind of rumor spreads faster than wildfire. And once the word informant gets attached to your name, it's almost impossible to shake off. And of course, 50 Cent didn't stop there. He clowned Jim non-stop. Every meme, every shady caption, every side comment was designed to keep that question alive. Was Jim really solid? Fans were divided, but the damage was already done. 50 had successfully made everyone look at Jim sideways. Then someone suggested a versus battle between Jim Jones and 50 Cent. And Jim shut that down immediately. His response was ice cold. "I don't want to do nothing with that sucker." You could feel the venom in his tone. The tension between them was still real, still raw, and clearly far from over. But just when you thought that was the peak of the drama, another dark chapter from Jim's past resurfaced. The true life situation, and this one, it wasn't rap beef. It wasn't internet talk. This one got real. We're talking physical, dangerous, and messy. One of the darkest moments in Jim's entire career. What's wild is that at first, Jim and True Life weren't even enemies. They were actually cool. True Life, along with JoJo Capone, had been providing real protection for Jim and Dipset back when things were getting hot in New York. These weren't regular bodyguards. These were street dudes handling serious situations where things could have popped off in seconds. But as history shows, in Jim's world, peace never seems to last long. And this alliance was about to turn into another headline-making disaster. But over time, True Life and JoJo Capone started feeling some type of way. They felt like they were out here putting their lives on the line for people who weren't breaking bread the right way, risking everything for loyalty that wasn't being returned. In their eyes, Jim wasn't showing the proper love or respect for the danger they were taking on for him. And that's when the cracks in the friendship started to spread fast. All that built-up tension finally exploded. The breaking point came when True Life ended up snatching Jim's Bird Gang chain. And instead of keeping it quiet, he went full disrespect mode. He started showing off the chain in interviews, holding it up like a trophy, smiling while talking wild about Jim. It wasn't just petty, it was personal. In the street world, that kind of move cuts deep. It's never just about jewelry. It's about pride, power, and respect. When someone parades around with your chain, It's not just a stunt, it's a message. And seeing True Life flaunt that Bird Gang piece on camera hit Jim's image hard, especially since his credibility was already hanging by a thread. Fans and street heads were all talking. How could the self-proclaimed capo let another man punk him in public like that? Trying to save face, Jim went up to Hot 97 to tell his side of the story, but that move only made things worse. Instead of cooling down the tension, Jim's words rubbed True Life the wrong way even more. He felt disrespected all over again, like Jim was trying to talk slick on the radio instead of settling things the real way. From there, the situation only got darker. And what started as a simple disagreement turned into one of the most dangerous beefs Jim ever found himself in. That whole situation intensified fast. The beef ran deep, bad blood that could have easily spiraled into something catastrophic. The streets were talking heavy, and people knew it was only a matter of time before things went left for real. The only thing that actually cooled it down wasn't peace talks or apologies. It was True Life getting locked up on an unrelated case. His prison sentence hit the pause button on the whole feud, but make no mistake, that tension never really disappeared. Even now, Jim barely speaks on it, probably because he knows it's one of those L's that time just can't erase. Every time his name comes up, that moment still lingers in the background, a reminder of how ugly things got and how close it came to breaking him completely. And when you zoom out and look at Jim Jones's entire career, the pattern's hard to ignore. It's been one storm after another, public fallouts, exposed lies, crumbling alliances, and endless drama swirling around his name. Instead of being celebrated as a Harlem legend, the man who helped shape an era, a lot of folks now see him as something totally different, a walking punchline. He's become the rapper who can't seem to escape the chaos that follows him everywhere he goes. No matter how many hits he drops, how many interviews he gives, or how many times he tries to reinvent himself, that cloud of controversy just keeps hanging over his head. So here's the real question. Is Jim Jones unfairly judged, or is he the one writing his own downfall, move by move? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. And while you're here, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, because we've got even more wild deep dives coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's next. When you piece it all together, Jim Jones's story isn't just another hip-hop drama, it's a full-blown urban epic, a tale of loyalty, betrayal, ambition, and image, all wrapped in one man's fight to stay relevant in a game that doesn't forgive. He's been called a boss, a hustler, a survivor, and at times a fraud. Every chapter of his career seems to come with a new controversy, a new beef, or a new headline that keeps his name alive, for better or worse. But here's the real twist. Through every scandal, every exposed lie, and every L that should have ended him, Jim still stands. No matter how many times he gets dragged online or clowned in interviews, he somehow finds a way to stay in the conversation. Maybe that's not by accident. Maybe that's his superpower, surviving chaos by turning it into content. From Dipset to Love and Hip Hop, from Harlem Pride to Federal Whispers, Jim's career is living proof that fame in hip hop isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. You can hate him, mock him, or question his credibility, but you can't deny he's still here, still moving, still talking his talk when most would have folded long ago. So now it's your turn. What do you think? Is Jim Jones misunderstood, or is he just addicted to the drama that keeps him trending? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and lock in with BarzBuzz, where we break down hip-hop's biggest stories one controversy at a time. Because in this game, truth might fade, but receipts never do. If this saga had you shook, wait till you see what's next. You already know what it is. BarzBuzz got the real, raw, and unfiltered breakdowns. So don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to catch up.